Hello, it is I, Francis, and I first of all want to not really apologize, but what's the word I'm looking for? Acknowledge the fact that I haven't done a live stream in a little while, and hopefully I can make up for it by doing a live stream forever today. I just won't stop. I'll just do it for the next week straight. And anyway, today I am going to make some music in Reaper, and I'm going to challenge myself again, as I do sometimes, to only use stock plugins to create some Dungeon Synth music. And the reason I'm doing that is to make it easier for you to come back and look at this live stream recap and follow along and learn from it without having to spend money on whatever garbage I waste my money on. Stuff like these synthesizers over here and expensive plugins. So anyway, let's get right to it. And well, you know what? Before we get right to it, I'm going to share my links, I think. And I'll share my links on social media. Hooray. Because that's what we do. That's what we have to do. Otherwise, we don't get viewers. Anyway, if anyone's watching this yet, just feel free to bother me. I'll be looking at the comments periodically and doing my best to respond to questions, comments, concerns, etc., etc. I better post this in the Dungeon Synth Producers Forum group. It's a great Facebook group. If you make Dungeon Synth and you're not in there, check it out. It's a great place to learn and ask questions. Okay, I think that's all the places that I wanted to post a link, so maybe without further ado, oh God, I will get started. Cool. That's my last distraction to get out of the way. And it's finally time to, get started with this.
I have some new toys, and I'm going to do my best to enjoy them.
So if I overuse them, just let me know. I'm sure that those will get really annoying really fast. Okay, as a starting point, I guess I already put an instance of Resynth on this track. This is as good a starting point as any, really. This is Reaper's stock synthesizer, and it is very, very oversimplified, I would say. If you're not familiar with this, it has a volume and tuning control, a single ADSR, which is locked to the volume, a portamento control, which controls the time it takes to go from one note to another. I'll just arm my MIDI controller so you can hear that. Compared to without, with. Anyway, we won't get carried away with the portamento. And then it's got a wave shaper. So if I add an oscilloscope to this track, we can view the waveform we're creating. And if we shape it, yeah, you get the idea. We have a square, a saw, a triangle, and a second sine wave, which we can blend in. This gets kind of fun when we retune it. as a starting point, I'll tune it to 1200 cents, which is 1 octave. So now we get a separation of an octave in that, and that can get kind of cool when we use like a little bit of wave shaping. I'm going to get rid of the oscilloscope for now, and I'm going to start this at the default value. The first thing that I like to do with a basic synthesizer like this is to think about what I'm going to use this sound for. In this case, I think that I'm going to make maybe a pad, a lead, and a bass sound as a starting point. Perhaps 2 lead sounds, and I'd like them to all be relatively different so that they stand out from each other in my final mix. But as a starting point for this song, I think that I want to try to create an interesting bass line. And for a bass line, I'm going to use just a straight up sawtooth waveform. Sawtooth waveforms have a lot of harmonics, so they're quite a bit louder than the sine wave that we began with. I don't even want to demonstrate that for you because it's going to be annoying. So I'm going to set this to minus 15 instead of minus 6, and let's just see if that's an okay starting point. Already a bit extreme in volume compared to what I had. I'm going to use this wave shaper instead of a filter today, just to get some practice thinking differently about this stuff. In my Dungeon Synthesis series, I use a whatchamacallit, like an EQ as a filter to soften up the sound. And in this case, I'm going to essentially just blend in a sine wave to soften up the sound instead, which works kind of like a filter, but different sound. So different sound leads to different music, which is fun. My final composition here, I don't have direction for yet. I'm not, thanks for commenting, by the way, Crawford Glissadevil. I like that name. I'm not sure if it means something, but I like that screen name a lot. It's like fun to read. I don't have a plan for this. I'm basically free composing at this point. And because of that, I think that I'm going to start by, with my actual notes with a MIDI sequence instead of with my keyboard. So I'm going to create a new sequence here, and I'm using Control and clicking and dragging for that to create a new MIDI item. Let's call this bass. Actually, I'm going to have this MIDI item named bass. Okay, and it's still untitled. That's funny. And you would use Command if you were on a Mac instead of a PC. I'm on a PC. So to begin here, it looks like I was in my last project in 8th note triplets, which actually could be kind of a fun rhythm for this. Kind of a jaunty sound for that. I haven't even checked my tempo. It's 85 BPM. This is terrible. And today I'm going to try to make a point of not putting stuff up here in the corner like I did last time. I think I'm going to go for jaunty instead of eerie or scary. Like I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. I am I think pleasantly surprised by that. I'm interested in where this might go. It's not what I would have expected to write, and I think that it can be important to try to write on instruments or in situations where you're not comfortable. That's something that I actually learned by doing some of these live streams. Was that basically, if you go in with your final product as a mystery, you can sort of end up with something you didn't expect, and you can lean into the uncertainty and the maybe even stress of having people watching. So anyway, I'm going to lean into that and use this for now. Okay, and let's see how this feels as a loop. That last note, not liking it. I think I like it. It's kind of weird by itself, though. So I'm gonna go straight into another part and add another instrument. I'm gonna keep using Resynth. I have an idea for something else I might want to use here. There's a couple of other stock plugins in Reaper that can create sound, generation, and I might explore that as well. For this one, I'm going to try to make a poly sound, so a pad of some kind. And in that context, I want to keep the harmonic content a little bit, even more minimized, and the volume output really low because I'm going to be playing more than one at a time. God, I almost like just the sine wave. Okay. That's kind of a cool sound. It's a bit quiet right now because I've got the volume down so low. I might have actually gone too far with that. So let's go to -15 on that one as well. I'm going to try and, oh shoot, I'm so sorry. I didn't change after I talked at the beginning. My bad. Thank you for saying something cyberspace code. That's embarrassing. Okay. And this just shows up here. This is my voice. Oh, that's not part of the stream. Okay, cool. I think this is correct now. Hopefully the sound is still there. Let me show you the sequence that I made at the beginning there. So I created this using an instance of Resynth where I turned the volume down because I wanted a lot of harmonic content, and I brought in a blend of a sawtooth and the default sine wave. So that's basically what we didn't see at this point. I think. Okay. Anyway, back to this pad creation. So far, I am at -15 decibels from the default of, I think it starts at -6, and I'm fine with -15 for now. I haven't explored my envelope generator yet, and I haven't confirmed that this is what I want to do with my wave shape. I've blended in a square, adjusted the pulse width. I actually kind of like the idea of having the pulse width on an LFO, which we can do in Reaper using parameter modulation, which is up here in that param menu. And that gives us the option of controlling that parameter automatically. I'm going to choose LFO or low frequency oscillator, and I'm just going to try to get it so that this travels through the most of the whole range. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm gonna go slower. Let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, that gives it a little bit of motion. I think that sounds pretty good. And for this pad, I want to adjust my my volume envelope here. I want a slow attack. So right now it's set to 3 milliseconds. So the note is functionally at full volume the second you press a key or trigger it with a MIDI event. And I want it to fade in. So I'm going to set that to that's fine. The decay defaults to 1000 milliseconds, but without a sustain volume, that won't do anything. So I'm going to have it sustain at, let's just go to like around 6 decibels below where it started. And hear what that sounds like. Ooh, not +6, -6. Huh. It just doesn't want to do that, does it? Okay. I'll just do it manually like that. That's a cute sound, I guess. What key were we in again? It looks like C sharp minor-ish. I think what I'm going to do here is let's key snap as a starting point to C sharp natural minor for now. Let's hear that. Let's see if this sounds good looping. It's kind of cool. I don't think I want it to repeat just like that though. Oh, no problem. Cyberspace code. I have fun doing this. I a few years ago thought it would be fun to get into the hobby of game development, and went on YouTube and just found videos of like just long form videos of people making video games, and was just really kind of baffled by how much you could learn on YouTube. And when I got into doing Dungeon Synth, I thought it was cool because it was easy for me to understand where it was coming from. And then I guess I sort of realized that there weren't people doing this. It was mostly like mysterious plugging a Casio into a tape recorder type stuff, and a lot of the sounds you can get pretty cool sounds out of a computer too. I really like the plug the Casio into the tape recorder technique, but not everyone wants to get a tape recorder, and I totally understand that. I like using some hardware with a lot of my music, but it's much more convenient to do it this way. I might change that baseline here. I'm just trying to come up with something in here that's different from the first part, and I want this to feel like a loop, like a regular Dungeon Synthy kind of a loop. I want it to float around in the same space for a while before changing. I like that, but I'm going to change the bass line. So I've got a it's almost like a Mozart-y kind of a form here, where this measure and this measure are different, but these two are the same. So I would say like kind of an A, B, A, C. Or no, sorry, A, B, C, B, right? Because measures 2 and 4 are the same. And I'm just trying to come up with some way of giving it a little bit more motion before doing a true repeat, which is what I want to try next here. And I'm going to mark this as section 1. And I'm going to try to go to a section 2 now, or maybe a section 1A. Yeah, let's do like a section 1A. And here, what I want to do is essentially have the same thing repeat, but I'm going to introduce a new instrument here. So maybe a mysterious and spooky melody.
This is my other joke.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what voiceover stuff I want to do for my videos to make them more ridiculous, I guess. Anyway. Let's call this one a lead. I was also thinking about doing a tutorial on making your own lead sounds. I don't know how useful that would be, just as a general thing. Maybe I would do it as like make your own lead sounds on so-and-so synthesizer instead of just as a generalization. But let's talk about leads generally here. I'm going to use Resynth for all of these tracks until I get to the point where I want either percussion or something relatively different. So in this instance with a lead sound, I think that I want just a straight up square wave. And I want it to be a bit louder. So maybe that'll work. Ugh, it's disgusting sounding, isn't it? I hate this sound. I think I changed my mind. In this context, I don't think I want a square wave after all. Would a sine wave be cool here? I wonder. I'm gonna compare that. I actually like this triangle. Gives me old school video game vibes. So I'm gonna, you know what? New challenge for myself is going to be to create a fun lead for this with without shaping that envelope. It's very 8-bit, isn't it? I might come back to this and do a second pass on this song with without using stock plugins, because I'm starting to like this the vibe I'm getting here, but I'm not really sure if I want to do like an 8-bit sounding song. I love that kind of music, but in this context, it might not be what I'm after. But as a starting point, my general rule is I try to follow the sort of the John Cage begin anywhere rule, where that guy used to say, if you look up interviews of him, that the traffic sounds outside of his window were good enough music for him to listen to, just like, you know, like the original harsh noise standing. But he did create a lot of interesting stuff and was a very creative man. And his outlook was basically, as long as you start, you'll end up somewhere interesting, even if it isn't good. So that's what we're going to do. But we're going to try to make it good. Again, what am I at? C sharp natural minor. Yeah, why not? Let's just pick a note to start with. That's a great starting note. Nope. I think I want something more like I like those notes, but not the rhythm of them. That's kind of cool. So I am liking this as a starting point, and what I'm going to do next as a compositional tool is to try and save that that rhythmic motion and do something slightly different with it on the repeat here. And let's just see if those same starting notes work. Otherwise, I can move them to a different place. And with the key snap, they're going to lock into notes in that scale. So I'm sort of bound to end up with notes that are at least okay. Whoops. So much for preserving the rhythm. I'm doing that by ear. I'm picking a note that sounds like it goes with the next chord. And I want to do something a little bit different to mark that melody is over and that I'm going to go to a new idea, which in this case I think is going to be a repeat. With ambient styles of music and with like Dungeon Synth, I think that we end up with a lot more time to get ourselves into whatever vibe we're going after. It's a lot easier, I think, to create this type of music when you're playing live. But in this case, I want to show what I'm doing, and I haven't worked out a system yet to like have a visual display of what I'm doing on the keyboard. And I know there are ways to do that, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm busy with other stuff too. I kind of like this, but I also want more notes there. That needs to go faster. This is sort of I think that maybe I played like The Secret of Mana or Legend of Mana too many times. I actually don't know the composer that did the music for that series, but they do this a lot. And I love that little chromatic ornament. I'm going to go back to the key snap after that, though. I don't know if I need another note. Okay, let's repeat that and see if that feels good as a loop. I'm actually going to let this play back from the beginning. And I forgot to post this in my Discord, so I might do that. So I'm just doing this to listen, though. I want to get a feel for whether or not I like this trajectory. I find that it's really, really hard to be able to tell visually or as you're working part by part if something actually flows well. So it looks like this is already 22 seconds in by the time the first melody comes in, which is, to my background of like heavy metal music and stuff like that, it seems like kind of a long time to not really do anything. But in this case, I think that just a little bit of reverb will get us to where we want to be. But anyway, I'm just going to listen. Okay, I think that I kind of like it, but this lead is really just that triangle thing isn't really working for me as it is, and I think the reason for that is because it just sort of cuts through our mix too hard right now. I'm gonna make it a little bit quieter, and I'm going to add a bit of reverb to it. I'll just use, again, this sweet Verbo preset comes with Reaper. You can load any reverb IR into this. And I'm not going to explain what an IR is because I don't totally understand. It's basically like an audio file that mimics the... it lets you mimic the effect of a room or a space or a speaker, things like that. Let's just blend this in. I'm going to put that on the pad too. I think that the other thing that's bothering me is that on the repeat, I don't like that this goes... I kind of wanted to go and end up on a high note. Cool. I'm much happier with that with the reverb and with the change. And now again, I just want to see if this feels good as a repeated part. I think it might, but there's a chance that I'll want to bring in another instrument. Yeah, it's cool, but I think I want something else to happen. I'm going to call this lead 2 because I don't feel like coming up with an inspired name. I'm going to start with the same patch and use a different envelope shape and a different waveform maybe. I think that for this one I want kind of a plucked sound, so I'm going to take the decay time down really fast, and the sustain level like to nowhere. Yeah, no sustain, and maybe bring in a little bit of harmonic content. It's kind of cool. want to have this come in like before that measure ends. Let's just do this. I'm doing this as one long item because I want to actually see how this lines up with my lead here. I'm gonna make these tracks bigger as well. Also, it's like too bright of a color. These are all really bright, aren't they? We had drab colors here. This is Dungeon Synth. There we go. There's still, I can differentiate between them. Hello, the Midnight Aristocrat. Cat Jam. I don't think I know what Cat Jam means, but I like it because cats are cool. Oops. So, maybe like right here. I think I like the idea of that, but starting over here. Let's try that. Maybe it's rhythmically wrong. The basement sound, that's a great question. There's a lot of things that we could do to create that kind of a vibe. This right now is a little bit hi-fi for my taste, but I think what I would consider is essentially busing all my tracks together. I would do this on my master channel. I think that this goes through my stream. I actually don't know off the top of my head if my stream is going through my master track, so I'm going to do it on a separate bus here, and I'm going to just pretend like this is my master track. So there's a couple of things we can do. First of all, I guess we could take our width down. In this case, I think I'm already in mono though. So the width is one thing. If you have a stereo track, it's going to sound a lot less bedroomy or basementy. Another thing we could do is adding EQs and saturations to create sort of a lo-fi vibe. Something like a regular EQ you could do that with. I would just basically do a sort of a gentle filtering of the high end and the low end probably. So. So already it's getting a little bit more, the fidelity is getting lower because I'm removing a lot of high harmonics. If you wanted to pay for a plugin, this one is really a cool one that I've been enjoying for like really just messing stuff up. I think this one's like $25 though. This one sort of mimics the sound of a VHS. Gives it that low background hum. This is without. That's the dry signal. And then with. So there's a lot of plugins like that that'll mimic tape. If you use like a regular tape saturation, like this one, for example, this is a very hi-fi sounding tape plugin. So it's gonna sound pretty much like a hi-fi recording still. It's not. It'll change the character a little bit. We can add some background noise and some saturation. You can use a different tape speed as well. That might be helpful. Yeah, that sort of does the trick, but it's not great. I think that the probably the best way of doing it, and the way that a lot of Dungeon Synth artists will do it, is they'll actually record on a cassette machine. Even if you do it digitally, sometimes what they'll do is they'll take the digital recording and record that onto a cassette, and then record the cassette back onto the computer, and that gives you a similar vibe to what that VHS plugin was doing. You could really go hard with this one too if you wanted to. I think that's just overboard at that point, but basically it's blend to taste with any of that type of stuff. If I had to use free plugins to create that, again, I would probably use the EQ and maybe like a few instances of something like this, the saturation here. Just like oversaturate it. Oh God, I'm a little bit too hard with that. Okay. Experiment with the order and stuff. In this case, I'm gonna leave that stuff off and basically make this the recording is gonna be intact until I'm done with the music, and then I'll come back and see if I can create that a little bit more of that basement vibe. Another thing that works is if you're recording your own instruments. A lot of recording tutorials will recommend putting the mics right up in front of something. I guess there's a mic right here, so. Like, imagine the glasses case is like your amplifier or your speaker, and like just putting it right on top, and putting the microphone like across the room will give it that vibe too. You can recreate that with certain reverbs and stuff like that. What did you say here? And as far as the damp basement of the castle, that all those types of vibes too, you can get them from just doing a bus reverb. So if I had I know I said I was going to use stock plugins only here, but I already showed a few. Something like this. This is a free one that you can get online. And finding like a sort of a stone basement type of a sound. I'm sure there's something like that in here. Maybe there isn't. Cool, dark place. I like it. And then mixing something like that in. Doing that and then EQing it before you get into the reverb can give you, if you put everything through a reverb, you're going to get that same type of feel. It's so much better that I almost don't want to listen to the original anymore, to be honest. But again, there's some elements of it that are just the synthesizer you're using. Though the note choice, I think, helps a lot. When you work in a computer like this, a big problem that you end up with, I almost associate this workflow more like with hip hop, actually, where everything's extremely metered and the loops are always the same length. Something that I haven't tried yet, but I might do it on this one actually, is to just adjust the tempo every once in a while. And I'm using Shift C to do that. And humanizing the notes, essentially like sticking them all together, and I'm highlighting them using the H key, messing up the timing of them a little bit. Let's just see what that feels like. It's a little bit too much, but I think that you can essentially recreate that vibe by just learning your songs and playing them. In this particular one, I don't think I'm going to go that far. Sounds like a lot of work once I've already actually written it all out in MIDI sequences. But with whenever I personally make music that sounds like whatever you call it, like that has that more basement kind of a vibe to it. I'm usually just playing the parts on a keyboard, and I won't use a click track when I do that. So I'll just I'll have a free tempo, and it makes it a little bit sloppier, but I think it does so in a way that's a bit charming. So hopefully that's helpful. I don't know if I'm being very helpful when I describe those things. And let me know if I'm not. I'm happy to continue trying to answer the question. Anyway, I'm going to come back to this second lead here because I don't like this rhythm. Oh gosh. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. Oh God, I love that. That's kind of cool. Just very polyrhythmic. Let's listen to that from a little bit earlier. See how it feels. Wisdom, what's up? Congratulations on your new YouTube channel. I'm liking it so far. You know what you should do? You should learn this on your violin. Once it's done. And okay, cool. Hopefully, yeah, like I said, hopefully that's helpful. Cyberspace code. I'm not confident that it will be, but it's all experimentation and finding your sound. Oftentimes you can have the same room, the same equipment, and the same song as somebody else, and the way they touch the keys, it's like that's it. It's like your touch. I noticed that when I play guitar, like I have a very specific pick attack that I get that's that helps me identify my own playing compared to other people's playing, and it's a combination of every single variable, so it's really hard to pinpoint the exact variable you need. I like this one more here. Okay. What did I do differently? Oh, I see. I'm gonna do change my grid to quarter notes, I think, actually. What am I doing here? Oh no, I need 8 notes. Oh no, I'm on triplets. Yeah, I just want quarter notes, I think. And because my release time and my sustain volume and my decay time are so small, my sustain time volume is infinity negative. It's like there's no sustain volume, and my decay time is less than 100 milliseconds basically. Because of that, these won't sound different. So if you're wondering why the notes are suddenly long and they sound exactly the same, the decay and sustain on my synth are causing it to it basically be like triggering a really short sample, like a drum sample. Okay, again, I'm going to use the same pattern, but these notes want to change because I'm using a different chord here. I already forgot what chord it was. I didn't really check. I'll just do this by ear. Actually, those notes sound like they're part of the chord. Maybe I can get away with repeating that. Let's just hear this part. I kind of like the idea of having that little chunk be a part of the that's kind of cool. I like it. Okay, so at this point we've got essentially a relatively complete song idea. You know what, let's go for it and do some of the lo-fiing here. I'm going to use, again, for my final lo-fiing, I'm going to use stock plugins. I'll blend this reverb in. And the EQ I'm going to be a lot gentler with because I'm going to... what the hell? I won't be gentler. I'll just be, I'm going to add the saturation, just full on saturation to all these tracks to make them feel a little bit more like they were done on tape. And then the EQ here, I'll bring in this filter again. I'm going to be gentler with my low pass filter. Because I want to preserve some of those high harmonics that I actually sort of put a little bit of work into the synth sounds, and I like some of the high harmonics. So I'm going to use a shelving EQ more than I'm going to use the filtering EQ. Let's just listen to the difference between those real quick. So the shelving compared to the filter. So the combination of the two, really gentle filter out of the high end, and then a shelf to focus ourselves a little bit more on the low end. And I want to also boost my mid-range a little bit, right around 500. That's sort of the boxy, bad sounding frequency, and I'm trying to make this sound like pretty lo-fi, so let's just see how that feels. So I was also shelving the low end there a little bit, and I see some more questions. Yeah. I actually I can send it to you when you're done if you want, Wisdom. Um, I have a few structures when I produce. I have a few different workflows, actually. That's an interesting question because I think I have an interesting answer to it. I don't know if it always is an interesting question, but in this case, I like my answer to it. I find that I have to have sort of a project in mind or a type of a project in mind when I jump in. And when I'm feeling uninspired or if I'm running into some type of like a writer's block type of a situation, what I'll end up doing is working on a different project. I have that like procrastination brain, and the thing that I end up realizing is that if I have something else that I need to get done, that can distract me from the thing that I need to get done, and procrastinate on one thing by working on something else, I get quite a bit more done on both projects. And the more projects I add to that, the more confused I get, but the more things I have to procrastinate on, and the more things I have to distract myself from the things I need to be working on. So I bounce around between a sweet spot of like 2 and 4 projects at a time. And if I have really intense projects that have a lot of parts, 2 seems to be fine, because I can, take a break from writing or producing it to do a little bit of mixing on a different track, or practice a really challenging instrumental line. Because believe it or not, some of the music that I do is not like this, and I have to actually like be a musician for it instead of just being I think of this more like I guess I think of composing as being pretty different from being a musician, even though they really aren't, are they? It's a different discipline. But what I end up doing is for something like this, I'll just jump in and say like, okay, I'm going to just come up with a part and see what happens, and I'll just start anywhere. Today I started with the space line, and kind of reminds me of like a someone walking around with a trombone or something, and I tried to make it spookier with this, and it just sort of snowballs. Sometimes I'll have an idea or a concept or a set of lyrics or even a story. Sometimes it's not lyrics but a story, and I end up writing instrumental music, but I'll be inspired by a story or something like that. And really just any number of things can inspire me. Sometimes I'll just have a friend pitch an idea, or do some type of a collaboration, or have enough random ideas built up that I've written down in a notebook that I can just combine a few of them and say like, I'm going to make this today, and just get started with it and end up with something completely different. I don't share my workflows for my really, really complicated projects, only because my computer isn't good enough to handle that. I would need cameras on my hardware equipment, and I would need to, I guess, cameras around my room to walk around. I have some other hardware units behind the computer as well, and I can't really document that. Not only because there's stuff around the room that I'm going to be using, and it's very like hands-on process where I'm just grabbing things. Like, I mean, I have instruments within arm's reach to my left here. There's guitars and a bass and some amplifiers, and I have an organ behind the computer, and the synthesizers over here as well. So between that and the size of the project, the other project that I'm working on right now that I'm currently procrastinating on actually has, I think, 90 tracks in it, with quite a lot of plugins that introduce latency when they're on. So I can't run OBS to stream or screen record while I'm working on those projects. It just my computer will crash. So those workflows have to remain a mystery until I'm like making enough money to upgrade my computer, I guess, and put like a fisheye camera on my roof or something. But yeah, I try to share what I can from other ones, and I'm happy to answer questions about some of those more complicated projects. And It's just not easy for me to actually bring them into the internet world without having them be completely rendered beforehand. I'm going to introduce panning at this point, I think, and I'm going to bring the leads to the sides a little bit. That's just putting each of these melody instruments to the sides in the speakers. I might bring them back into mono, actually. I don't know if I like it more that way. But whatever. We'll see. On this first thing, it's kind of intense. Yeah, I think I agree with you, cyberspace code. Now that you mentioned that, this is kind of annoying. It's intense, isn't it? I think that taking the saturation off is doing the trick there. And what are you saying? Oh, yeah, of course. No problem to share that process. And I think the money will continue coming in at the rate that it's coming in, which is, I basically do this, what I'm doing right now, as a job. But some people pay me for it to do it privately. And that's fine. And I don't want that to be necessary, so I do it in situations like this for free as well, and try to answer questions. But I actually do teach this stuff for a living, so I'm basically happy already doing this, and I don't mind not having the computer to handle a bigger level of this type of show and tell, I guess. I think I'm going to let this loop again. I'm going to play this from the beginning, and I like the idea of going in with EQ now at this point, I think, like you're suggesting. I think that I might want to do that with more than just the lead track, but let's just see what happens. Okay, a little bit of preliminary EQing there. I'm cutting low end out of every single track. I know it seems hard to believe sometimes, but there is definitely such a thing as way too much bass, and it's in every unfinished recording ever. If you don't do that and you send your stuff off to be mastered, your mastering engineer will do that. Took me a really long time to learn that that bass frequencies are really intense. But here we are. I took some low end out of all of that too, because I'm trying to like let this EQ on the instrument bus here, the master bus, do a little bit less work. Is that bass too intense? I don't know if anyone's feeling opinionated about the bass. I'm agreeing with the comments about the lead, but I'm also starting to notice that I think the bass might be taking up too much space here. I might just lower the volume of this or something. Or take a little bit of power out of it that way. And then I think what I want to try doing is seeing if this feels like a little bridge section going to just a pad. Kind of like that. I think I want to bring it back in, starting with the bass. And I'm going to give it like a little walk down to each note. Let's just see how that feels. And then maybe coming back to these melodies. It's like a drop. And then I'm going to go back to this. And I'm kind of imagining adding percussion at this point. I think I want like a tambourine type of a sound. Yeah. And I'm not sure where I'm going to get that with my stock plugins. So let's just see what I can do. I want to do something that anyone could do at home. Maybe I'll sample my keys. Yeah, I'm gonna make a sample with my key ring, and I wouldn't normally do this, but in this case, I just want to make sure that I'm doing something that's sort of believable in the context of a like sort of a no budget project. Tambourine. I'm gonna just remind myself if I open this project in the future that it's not really a tambourine, so I don't question past me. How did I make that tambourine? It sounds disgusting. So. I probably look like an idiot doing that. That's okay. I I'm using Shift up in Reaper to zoom in on the waveform there. One of these has to have sounded okay, right? Yeah, that one's fine. Dungeon field recording synth. Yeah, basically. I'm using Alt S to turn off snap. That's this button up here. If you forget that and you're using Reaper, snap lets you lock. When you click, it'll lock onto the grid space. Here's with it, and here's without it. So the difference is that it's locking onto my grid when it's on. And I'm just gonna see if I can find one of these samples here. That one's good. And I'm just going to delete the outside of it. And I'll load this in a sampler. Let me put snap back on and see how this feels as like a looping fragment. I'm going to give it a little bit less at the beginning. Little fades on the sides. That sounds fine. And I'm going to render items as new take. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Can I do that? Why is that not gluing properly? There we go. Okay, and whoops, what did I just do? What is that? Am I looking for Control Shift T? What is that button? Cropped act Alt Shift T. Okay. Why is that not doing it? Alt Shift T. Oh, it's screen recording. That's annoying. I just updated OBS and I guess the new screen recording is thingamajig is or maybe it's a Windows thing. I don't know. Never happened to me. Anyway, Alt Shift T usually does that for me. Crop to active take. And there's a sampler in Reaper that's really good. It's hard to believe this is good because it's called Resamplomatic 5000 and it looks like this. But like, I promise it's really good. Anyway, it lets you trigger your sample from your piano roll, which is fantastic. So if you have one sample, or you can actually have multiple instances of it in the same track, you can sample whatever it is that you're doing and make a pattern. For example, there's my tambourine sound. And I'll just solo this for now. And I'm going to shape this in the sampler here. So I'm going to obey note offs first of all, so the sample will end when the MIDI notes end. I'm going to turn the max voices down to 1 so that I don't accidentally trigger the sample twice. And I'm going to give it a little bit of an envelope to make it a little bit more of a bite. I might actually try doing less of this. No, it loses its tambourine charm. Okay, and I'm turning the pitch of it down. It's giving it more of like a Shackles vibe. But when it goes too low, it's going to slow the item down, and that's going to give it sort of a non-percussive sound. Like if I do this, for example, it's going to sound like a nothing, right? Who knew you can make car keys sound like plates breaking, right? So back to sort of where it was. Okay, I think I'm relatively happy with that. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to give this its own reverb. And I think that like that sort of reverby tambourine is kind of like a magic dungeon synth thing. So let's just see how that feels in the context. It's okay. It's like the wrong rhythm. Let's try it. I'm not sure what to do with that. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking in the wrong meter. Something like this might be more appropriate. And it might need another drum, something like that as well. Let's cross that bridge when we get there. Let's see if this feels good throughout this whole section and over here as well. That's Control D if you use Reaper. Killing low end and high end because I just want it to fit in somewhere. And I'm going to make another track here for a drum, a big drum. Big drum. I use that so much in music production. I just call something big drum when I don't know what it's going to sound like. This is a really horrible, ugly plugin. It's called Resindra. This is Reaper's drum machine. Reaper doesn't really, it shouldn't have a drum machine. It does though. So anyway, here it is. And one of the sounds is a bass drum. It's not very good, but that's what we're going to use as our starting point. Kick. I don't want key snap on. There it is. And this is going to need like a saturation. It's going to need all kinds of stuff. There's like no high end in this, is there? You know what? I'm going to give it a tick at the same time as I'm giving it the bass, the kick sound. we have it. You know what? I'm going to give it reverb as well. Quite a bit of it, actually. And the problem with reverb is that we... the low end of the reverb gets really kind of messy. This is actually... You know what? I'm going to do something else here. I'm going to put the reverb for the bass and the kick on a different track. And this reverb is going to have no bass in it. So this, I'll show you how to do that. Let's see here. I'm going to put reverb on this track, put it 100% wet, so no dry signal, and put an EQ on it, and I'm just going to kill everything like below, like just, you know, tons of whatever it is. Something like that probably is good. And I'm going to use a send, so I'm going to drag the routing from that track over to here to the reverb, and I'm going to just use this fader for the reverb. So without, with. And that's without the EQ. Cool. Let's see how that feels in the mix. And I'm thinking I might just fade this one out. I kind of like calling this done here. I've been streaming for too long anyway. Get some mileage out of my... I want to get mileage out of my hardware that I've been exploring and learning. So I will probably do that on my own. But on this track here, I'm going to do one more thing. And I'm going to look at the volume automation. You can do that with the V key in Reaper. Essentially, what I want to do here is set this to write mode. and basically that was too fast. Essentially, there's a few ways of doing that. You can just draw it in if I hold control, and I'm just drawing in a volume change. But I could also just do that. And I think that the way I want to do it though is like, just like, basically, I think I'm gonna just draw it in with my faders. This is on a MIDI controller. Sometimes you have faders, and I have this keyed to be a mixing tool. So let's just see how that feels. And the goal there is really to just these first couple of things to get like a smooth transition to where I'm using my ears to say, like, when it gets too quiet to really hear, I'm just going to pull it down. Let's just get rid of that as well. And that's probably the whole track right there. I'm confident with that. We want to make sure we're not on write mode after that. That way we don't end up with any problems. And I think that's about it. I'll come back to this later and listen to it with fresh ears. I think that's an important piece of the workflow of making something like this. Maybe I'll get Wisdom to play violin on it, and then we'll have a feature. Anyway, if you've been watching this for a while and you're still watching it, thanks a lot for joining me. And thanks for subscribing to the channel. And let me know if you have questions or comments or anything you'd like to see me create here. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.